Welcome back! In this second episode, we'll explain what led to the treaty that dismembered Hungary and how the country became much smaller. I assure you, we didn't wash Hungary at 90 degrees Celsius, and we certainly didn't put it in a dryer. Something else happened, but to understand what and why, we have to go back a few centuries in time. The map of Europe was redrawn about 100 years ago, after the end of World War I. The victors decided it was time to eliminate the Habsburg monarchy, which also included the Kingdom of Hungary. Austria became a small, almost insignificant country, having lost their empire, but one could say that Hungary was punished even more severely. Although these decisions were based not on emotions or a sense of justice, but simply on great power interests. The downfall was inevitable, mainly for two reasons. I will explain both in this video, but first we should explain what the treaty prescribed for Hungary. When the Treaty of Trianon was finally signed on June 4, 1920, it gave 75% of the territory and 65% of the population to neighboring countries, mainly Czechoslovakia, Romania, and the new Kingdom of Serbs, Croats, and Slovenes. Even Austria received a small strip of land with a German majority. Apart from a few minor issues, like the city of Sopron, the population was not consulted. Hungarian concerns were simply ignored. Large groups of ethnic Hungarians became second-rate citizens in these countries, which essentially guaranteed more tension in the region. The country lost most of its natural resources, important rail hubs, and large cities that still had a Hungarian majority. Nobody was fully satisfied with the outcome, but Hungarians felt robbed and were determined to somehow overcome the restrictions imposed on them by the treaty. We could say that the victorious Entente powers were pursuing short-term goals and their own national interests when they drew the new borders. They did not foresee, or they did not care about, the possible repercussions, that over time, maintaining this new order would become very difficult, mainly because humiliating Germany and isolating Soviet Russia at the same time would push them towards each other, and they would work together to undermine peace in Europe. It didn't help that Trianon increased anger and hatred between Hungary and its neighbors, as Germany would be in the best position to exploit this. However, we are focusing on Hungary in this video, so let's try to understand how it was possible to dismember the kingdom that once upon a time had been an important power on the continent. Hungary spent the 15th century fighting against the Ottoman Empire, which became stronger and stronger as it conquered the Middle East and North Africa. In 1526, a major battle was lost at Mohács, after which the central part of the kingdom was gradually occupied. Hungary became a battlefield, the front line between the Habsburgs and the Ottomans, which devastated the country. The population either fled or was killed in these never-ending wars, so once the Ottomans were finally pushed out by the end of the 17th century, the kingdom had to be repopulated, which could only be done through mass immigration. This would be reason number one. Landlords needed cheap labor. Cities required skilled craftsmen, while the king needed more income, as always. Hundreds of thousands of German, Romanian, and Serbian settlers arrived, some looking for a new life, others fleeing from Ottoman oppression. This was seen as a beneficial process, because nobody thought that one day the language ordinary people spoke would become an important factor. Nationalism didn't exist back then. The concept of nation was not known. If you were not a member of the clergy or the nobility, you simply didn't matter. Therefore, inviting large numbers of peasants from foreign lands could only mean that more cheap labor was available for the ruling classes. As a result, by 1700 AD, Hungarians made up only about 40% of the population, down from roughly 70% in the pre-Turkish period. We should note that the presence of Slovaks, Croats, and Saxons was nothing new. They had always been there, But now, entire regions had a Romanian or Serbian majority, so regions like Transylvania and southern Hungary lost their mixed or Hungarian identity. Throughout the 19th century, nationalism spread like wildfire. Suddenly, ethnic minorities who previously had lacked a unifying identity felt that they were mistreated or that they should join their brothers and sisters in a neighboring country. The ruling elite in Hungary felt threatened by this. Their only answer was Hungarian nationalism and, in the early 20th century, a policy of Magyarization, a frantic attempt to increase the ratio of Hungarians, which at the time reached roughly 50%, but this further alienated the ethnic minorities. Hungary was not directly in danger, because up until 1914, all the great powers still believed that a strong Austria was needed to counter a rising Germany and maintain balance in Europe. This is what changed by the end of World War I, and this would be reason number 2. It was not a secret that Serbs in southern Hungary were the greatest threat, as they desired unification with Serbia, while more and more Romanians in Transylvania looked towards Bucharest instead of Budapest. A small difference in words, perhaps, but a huge change in mentality. Because of this, the Prime Minister of Hungary was against the war. He knew that even victory and the annexation of Serbia would have simply increased Serbian presence within Hungary. He was right, of course, but we also know that the Central Powers failed to emerge victorious. The war brought suffering on a previously unimaginable scale, which further increased tension. When the war ended, Hungary was in chaos. Most ethnic minorities expressed their desire to leave, and the new liberal government failed to protect national interests. They naively believed that President Wilson's 14 points would guarantee a satisfactory outcome, but noble ideas were once again overwritten by great power interests. Austria-Hungary was no longer needed or wanted. Great Britain, and most importantly France, were ready to replace it with a chain of smaller nations, a group of countries that would be easy to control and manipulate when needed. This chain of nation-states, a so-called cordon sanitaire, would keep Soviet Russia away from Europe, but it would also limit the power and influence of a re-emerging Germany. Hungary had to be dismembered partly because France's new allies in the region required more land, important rail connections, and natural resources in order to stabilize them and allow them to quickly mobilize in case the Soviets tried something. This strategy would fail spectacularly in the 1930s, but right after the war, it seemed it could work. Other aspects, like ethnic distribution, self-determination, or free trade and open agreements, were less important to the new masters of Europe. I would say that because of the 2 reasons I've listed here, ethnic diversity and changing great power interests, reducing the size of Hungary was indeed unavoidable. The only question was the size of this loss. A second major conflict was also unavoidable, and the circumstances of the peace treaty guaranteed that Hungary would try to recover its lost territories.